First thing you need to know, oh, I'm like diagonal. I'm on the t-shirt. No, the first thing you need to know is I no longer live in the borough that this one mentions because I would not be posting this. So like, I don't live in this borough anymore. Council wrong not to investigate complaints of a vulnerable woman. I'm the vulnerable woman. The worst part was, so this is from 2018. The worst part was, does that child not look a bit like my child? Look at that, looks like my daughter when she was 4 years old. It freaked me out because I didn't know this was getting published. Nobody told me that this was being written about me. I just was checking the newspaper one day and came across it and I was like, what the fuck? That's actually about me. This is actually about me. Anyway, let's continue. Okay, there's loads of ads on the screen. Ignore it. The woman known only as Miss B. My daughter's name's Brooke. The woman known only as Miss B went to the local government and social care ombudsman after the council refused to investigate complaints about the actions of children's services when she was a child. So this was before I sued them. This was the beginning of it. You have to go through the complaints procedure first. She claims that in 2009 she was not supported as a child in need when she was evicted from her mum's home and lived in an abusive relationship for up to a year until she was placed in care by the council. She also claims that the council ignored complaints about several foster carers and failed to pay her a clothing allowance. The Ombudsman report also states she complains that Sutton Council failed to properly investigate her complaint about the fourth foster carer who made an unfounded allegation about her ability to look after her newborn daughter, which resulted in further social services involvement. So that was baby stealer. That baby stealing bitch. After she stole my baby, once I got moved away from her, this was so funny. Wait. After baby stealer stole my baby, social services moved me away from her at my insistence. And she then made a complaint to social services saying I was a bad mum, that I wasn't, what is it called? A bottle steriliser. I wasn't washing the bottle steriliser properly. I wasn't waking up for my daughter when she was crying. And I had to attend a meeting with social services with the foster carer. She made this complaint 3 months after I stopped living with her, by the way. I lived with her for like a month. I think, no, it was less than a month. I've stopped living with this woman like 2 weeks after my daughter was born because she stole my baby. It was 3 months after that she made this complaint that I'm a terrible mother. And I literally sat in the meeting and I was like, if I was that bad, why are you only just saying something now? Because your job as a mother and baby foster carer, you're supposed to look after the mother and the baby, but the baby comes first. If you think the foster child is being a bad mother, you have to report that. I was lucky my advocate was with me because I wouldn't have had the strength to say all of that. It was because he had told me beforehand to bring up, why is it only just being brought up now? Anyway, social services like fucked off after that. But it was the fact that they were involved between when this woman made the complaint to when we had this meeting. Social services were further involved because of what this woman had said out of spite. When Miss B officially complained to the council in June last year, so June 2017, she was told that the historic complaints were too old to consider. So they literally told me, all these complaints, I made 6 complaints, all these complaints, it was too long ago, we're not even going to look at them. Instead, Sutton Council said she could take a look at her records to understand what happened at the time she came into care. So when I complained that the council let me stay homeless, they turned around and said, just read your records to find out. If you want to know why we let you be homeless for nearly a year, just read your records. That didn't help me. I didn't need to know why they did. Like, I wasn't asking like, why did you? I was asking as in, why? Like, how can this happen? How could you let that happen? And they say, just read your records. It did, so Sutton Council in their letter, it did acknowledge that this would be an emotional process and that it would take time to go through the many files, that eventually were given to me in the wrong order. The Ombudsman concluded, I felt it was wrong for the council to let a young, vulnerable woman wade through a large number of social care files on her own, but refused to allow a complaint investigator to do so. There were grounds within the statutory guidance for the council to exercise its discretion on time in exceptional circumstances. I felt there was little evidence that it had considered this or given adequate reasoning to justify its decision not to investigate. The Ombudsman asked the council to reconsider its position and investigate the complaints made by Miss B. On June the 8th, Sutton Council confirmed that it will consider the complaints. A council spokesperson said, we have met the resident concerned and agreed to consider her complaints through the statutory procedure. At the stage 1 complaint, I have all the documents. I need to read it out sometime, but they're long. Basically, the stage 1 complaint that they considered, they literally gave no answer. Like when I said, how could you let them be homeless? Why did you let someone steal a baby and still be a foster carer? I made 6 complaints. I can't even remember the response of the stage 1. It was literally like, well, the social workers don't work here anymore. So we don't know. And I then went back to the Ombudsman, because the Ombudsman are the people who, if they feel a local authority hasn't dealt with a complaint well enough, that's when they get involved. And yet the Ombudsman agreed, they never made another newspaper report, but the Ombudsman agreed the stage 1 complaint wasn't good enough. It would need to go to a stage 2. After the stage 2 findings were found, which upheld all my complaints, which was fucking emotional, because for a long time social services made me believe everything was my fault. So to have these investigators say no, it wasn't. Like, that was one of the most pivotal moments in my life. But anyway, yeah, it went to stage 2, and then we settled outside of court, which, by the way, I've spoken about before, I got like $2 fucking grand. If I'd gone to court, I could have got bare money. I know I could have. But the whole process destroyed, like I've spoken about before, so I'm not going to speak about it again, but like the process destroyed me. But anyway, that is the newspaper report that was written about me, and I just stumbled across it maybe like a month or 2 after it was written, and just reading it like, oh my God, that's me. That was mad.